All right, welcome back to Marketing on Tap podcast and video. This is Sam Fiorella and my mate Danny Brown. Today, we want to talk about data. This is something that has been really buzzing a lot in our industry and actually across the news in general because of this whole Cambridge Analytica fiasco and the way that they handled our data or were grabbing our data. And so we want to talk a little bit about that today. Cheers, mate. We want to talk a little bit about that. And what caught my attention, and the reason that I want to call this out, is a great article that I recently read in the American Marketing Association. I have the article pulled up here, called The Murky Ethics of Data Gathering in a Post-Cambridge Analytica World. And I thought it was really interesting. So I just want to read you, just to start the conversation, Danny, the theme of what I want to talk about today. And that's Cambridge Analytica was paid to acquire Facebook users' personal information through an outside researcher who created data harvesting personality quiz. You know, like what soprano would you be? If you were a vegetable, what vegetable would you be? I've never done it, only because I thought it was ridiculous. Right. Now I'm glad that I didn't do it. But anyway, the point is that what it was telling people that used it when they clicked, do you accept the terms and conditions, which of course nobody ever reads, in the fine print, it actually said that it was collecting the information for academic purposes. Right, which is a crock, obviously. A claim that Facebook never verified as being true. Anyway, although only 305,000 people participated, and I think it's every one of my friends did. So they were a big part of that 305,000 people participated in the quiz. What it did is not only did it take your data, but then you agreed to have it scrape all of your friends' data. So of course our data got included with all of them.
Well, I think they said
the wankers that did it.
Like about 130,000 people, maybe tops, did it, but it actually impacted 1, 2, 3 million upwards.
Yeah, no, you want to know what the number is?
I don't want to know the number.
87 million.
Crap.
So 300,000 people actually did those quizzes, but it got the data from 87 million users because it then goes out and scrapes all this data. So anyways, that's what I want to talk about today. And how do marketers deal with this? Because now with the whole GDPR, we're talking about that a lot internally, and what's the cost of that and how do we implement it? Do we implement it? Yeah. So I want to break that down. But before we do that, almost equally important, what did you just pour?
So today it's a cowbell. This is the absent landlord.
Robert, where's our bell?
We need more cowbell.
Second.
To quote the great Anchorman, right? Need more cowbell. I think.
I thought you were going to try and be all scholarly and like Hemingway or something like that.
It's either Anchorman or there's like a British parody rock movie. I can never remember.
I thought it was going to be Anchorman or Barney. Yeah. Aren't those your two staples?
That one, Barney, and sometimes Caillou. But a cowbell, really good brewer up in Blythe, Ontario. They make you like this, the Doc Perdue. It's like, it's an amber ale, which you should like.
I do like
Doc Perdue makes it's a really nice ale as well. It's not too harsh. It's like a good ale to drink. And also makes some really nice IPAs and a couple of other ones, other stouts. But the Absent Landlord, it's an amber ale, craft beer amber ale. And it's one of their flagship staples. Again, it's not a really heavy one. It's 5.3% with a 19 IBU. So the bitterness, the hoppiness is down there. And Cowbells are making, like I said, they're making some really good beers. And they've been open for a few years now. So they've just actually come into...
Got a little bit of experience behind them. All right, cheers.
Yeah, cheers.
A lot more full-bodied compared to the wheat beer that we tried last week.
Yeah, exactly. And it's more full-bodied, but it's not overpowering. It's like a really good, that's a good all-year beer, I think. You could have that fall, summer,
Well, for somebody like me that really does like a heavier beer or a darker beer, this is actually a good mix because I really don't like, that wheat beer that we had last time was really good, but this actually is really good. No, I appreciate that. Anyway, once again, we're not sponsored by Cowbell. We caught our attention, or caught my attention because it's pretty packaging. So good choice.
Exactly.
It's like when I bet on horses.
You go
it's
for
like,
the best
what's the name?
horse?
What's not the best? Well, I do have an affinity for good-looking horses. I'll have to tell you that. But no, but I do pick it by the name. But that's what got my attention on this one. But good choice. Mm-hmm. Anyway, so we're not sponsored by Cowbell, but we do encourage you to check it out. Typically, these are just what we like. And this is definitely one of them. So, okay, let's get back into it. So just to set for those of you that don't know, I think it's important to talk about how Facebook gathers information. For people that don't realize, there's traditionally three ways that they gather data. It could include as a marketer, we can go into Facebook and we can look at the user's habits based on how they use the platform, their web browsing history, their cellular locations. That's the kind of information that we gather when we look at user data on Facebook. They make this available for sale. Or we can get data through advertising collected. So other advertisers that collect data, they can then sell that data. So that's something that we have access to. And that includes email addresses, what stores they visited. So what else advertisers will give us. And then, of course, there's data provided by third parties. And I think this is where it starts to get a little bit tricky, especially in this particular Cambridge Analytica example. So here, companies these are really data brokers. And they include companies like Axiom, Oracle, Epsilon, Experian. I've actually purchased data from these companies in the past. So these companies basically build profiles of everybody. And what they do is they take a look at government reports, government records that are freely available. They will gather then anytime you enter a contest and you enter information, those contest companies are selling all of that data. So they'll collect that, surveys, data that they get from loyalty cards, because that, by the way, nobody's aware, that's all being sold. Yeah. And so these companies basically grab this data and then merge it and create a profile. And then when you take that data and add it to what you're getting from Facebook, you know what I mean? Yeah. They've got quite a bit of data. So the idea here is, the question that I want to pose is the question that this article in the American Marketing Association journal posted is, data collection rules are murky and customers are completely creeped out, right? Which is their words. So my question is, can marketers actually lead the change? Facebook, despite what they're saying, is really not leading it. They're saying they are. I have zero faith. I think few people do. But do we have an opportunity to take the lead here and clean up this industry?
No, for sure. We can choose who we deal with. And that's where our marketing dollars go, or our clients' advertising dollars. So we choose which vendor we want to work with. And it's a long process, but if enough agencies push back and enough businesses push back on the guys that you look at how they collect, what they collect, etc., and you just don't work with them, and you work with the trusted ones, then we can start to have an impact. We can also make sure that if a client asks us, I want this kind of data. Well, no, you don't want that data. Yeah. So there are things that we can do to actually, impact it one step at a time to actually get it to where it needs to be, for sure.
And it's funny because while we say that, we're still using Facebook and we're still collecting data on Facebook. So I guess it's one thing to say it. It's another thing to do it. Some of the stats that I've read recently, that Facebook reported 11.8 billion in advertising revenue after this whole Cambridge Analytica. So they've actually increased. So people like you and I, and we have to admit, we are still using Facebook to advertise for our clients. Yep. It's a 50% increase since the same period last year. Right. So that's a significant increase. So marketers are definitely not taking the lead. We can, but we're not. The other thing is, on the marketing side, Facebook remains still a good deal for us, right? Which is the reason we do it, because it works for our clients ultimately. Mm-hmm. So the cost per 1,000 impressions on Facebook right now is running about $5.12. Compared to LinkedIn, which is 16.99. Instagram is 4.2, so $4.20. Pinterest is $3.20. So we're still getting, pretty good cost per 1,000 impressions. But more importantly, Facebook, I found with the work that we're doing, yields the highest click-through rates at 1%. Mm-hmm. Right? No one else is getting that. Snapchat is only 0.37, Pinterest is only 0.48, and LinkedIn only 0.25. Right. So it's a better deal for our clients. And funny enough, there's this weird codependent relationship happening. So people know, they read and they don't care. So they know that the data is not being used, and very few people. I think the only exodus they saw was kids under 25, which were probably leaving anyway. Right, exactly. Right, but on 25 and over, we're actually using it more. So I don't know. Can we actually trust Facebook with our data? I know we're marketers, and this is all about marketing on tap. But let's take an aside as an individual using Facebook. Can we trust them?
No, I don't think so. And obviously, we do say that as a marketer's point of view, as a consumer, But I mean, I deleted my Facebook account 3 years ago. I rejoined it and I locked it down as best I could and limited the friends, etc. But I still know that if I want to download an app to my phone because I'm tied to Facebook with an app there, that can also speak to, each app can speak to each other, and the data that I allow from app X can still be, gathered by Facebook because they know I'm using, app Y.
Yeah.
And like you go back to the whole election, whether it's Ontario, the US, or whatever, the amount of fake news that jumped up, and the amount of trolls that jumped up and bots that were there, that Facebook aren't really doing enough to get rid of. So if they're not doing enough to get rid of that, they really don't care about the user experience, which all ties back to privacy and data, and knowledge about the user. So it makes too much money. You just shared they've jumped 50% in revenue. So why would they change and break that system?
Well, it's funny. There's a codependency, and this gets back to that codependency thing. I was just looking for this quote that the article put out. Facebook needs advertising to sustain its business. Right? That's obvious. Advertisers need Facebook users to sell their products, and Facebook users need a platform to remember their aunt's birthday.
Right. That's it.
Which is kind of creepy because I'm trying to stay away from Facebook for mental health reasons. Yeah. But to be honest with you, I check it every day. So whose birthday is it today? Is it my wife's birthday? Is it my mom's birthday? Yeah. You know what I mean? So it's kind of funny, but it's really weird, this codependency that this application has. But getting back to marketing, one of the things that I want to caution is that there's been a lot of question around the measurements and the accuracy of the reporting that Facebook puts out there. So one of the things that I realized in just some of the studies that I've been doing when I first read this is that there's actually been admission by Facebook and some personnel at Facebook. Here it says that including miscalculations of average watch time of videos, organic reach of posts, video ad completion rates, average time spent on instant articles, and referral traffic from Facebook to website and mobile apps. So, I mean, we now have to really look at not just how is our data protected and what kind of data, and are we going to be careful about the data we collect, but when we're reporting measurements, this is something that goes back to the quality of measurements and what's the actual ROI. Yeah,
exactly. Well, the good thing is, I mean, obviously, that's just one aspect of measurement. You have Google Analytics, you have, other measurement tools that you can tie with Google AdWords. If you're doing remarketing from Facebook, based on website visitors, you can get all that information and tie their stats to our stats and get a nice mix in the middle. So we can keep an eye on it. We can, make sure that we're reporting correctly, and as marketers, we're doing our job. But yeah, it's like anything. You can't just take the aspect that reporting is going to be 100% correct. You have to tie it together to different, data points. But yeah, I mean, from an advertiser point of view or a market point of view, again, why should we spend our money if the reporting is not what we're paying for?
Because because it's really any different than what Instagram, which is also owned by Facebook, or Pinterest, or any of the. I mean, are they all any better? This is where like. It's really, we've been saying this for 15 years now. This is still very much the Wild West. There's just so much unknown, and we're just being so trusting that everything they tell us is accurate. Right. We have to look at that. So the question then is that I want to put out there, two questions before our time runs out here. Is personalization going too far? Is the one question that I want to talk about. And the other thing is, what's the opportunity for marketers? Knowing that this is all kind of murky and that people are creeped out, how do we set ourselves apart? Like, should we now be saying, listen, we're collecting your data by participating in this contest? Right. Is that going to go too far? Are people going to be turned off if we're giving them too much information? Are they happy being blissfully ignorant?
Yeah. I think, like personalization, it's down to the individual. And I know it's easy as marketers to say, well, you own your information or what you share with us. In a way, you don't know, because you download an app and nobody goes through the terms and conditions. Yeah. And there's so many permissions that are given to various apps, which again, if you think Facebook's bad, just look at your Android phone or your Apple phone and see what they're actually tracking on you, without you knowing. So I think personalization, when done well, it's there for a reason, but consumers don't really necessarily know about it. From an actual marketing point of view, So what was the second question? I got distracted by the last bell coming in.
I know, yeah, because we have we're very high tech over here. Instead of having a last call bell, we have Robert standing over there doing one of these, waving
bell.
his hand. I know, but the thing is, have we gone too far? Are people just too creeped out? Like we have a lot of information. The idea of having this information is to provide you a better user experience. But given what people know, are marketers now at risk of being too personalized in their messages? Is it going to backfire on us?
I think we can make a mix of simple and complicated. So simple is for the end user, and you can get all the information you want to get across to them that impacts their use of an app or a platform in easy to understand language, which is still showing that we're going to take some information from you, and this is the information. But it's no different than you using your bank's credit card to buy something from Amazon, for example, like a language like that, like comparisons. But you still have to, from a marketing point of view, when you're talking to clients, you have to make sure they understand this is what we're tracking. This is what you've requested us to track. This is a recommendation to not to. And if you do, this is what the potential outcome could be if it backfires.
Yeah, exactly. All right. So before Robert blows a gasket over there, last call, final thought, actionable item. What can we share with people?
I think be better, and that's for everybody. I mean, we're talking to marketers and, execs. So
Facebook, Zuckerberg, you listening?
You're watching. So just
him and Trump sitting next to each other watching, that's for sure.
Trump's going to tweet out now. When this episode goes live, he'll be like blasting us. But just be better. Be better marketers when it comes to what we're asking and what we're actually trying to get, and make sure the reasons for getting it are actual good reasons, as opposed to the fact that we can get it and we can sell it on or whatever.
Right.
And from an end user, just be educated. And when you see these stories, read them and take note of what's happening.
Right. Well, from my perspective, last call is going to be really data protection regulation. So GDPR. One of the fears I had about talking about this today is that we need like an hour or more to talk about this. And we didn't really get into GDPR. But the one thing that I do want to call out as my last thought is pay attention to what's happening in Europe. The new regulations out there that are affecting us because, we market our companies that hire us are marketing to people in Europe. And so we have to be looking at this. So pay attention to the GDPR. We don't have time on this conversation. Maybe
we'll revisit that.
We'll revisit that. But if you don't know GDPR, go and check it out. This is something that we need to be much stronger as brand marketers. Whenever we engage customers, we have to tell them, this is why we're collecting your data. This is how we're going to use your data, and not make it this 30-page legalese.
Right.
Let's simplify it, which again is one of the requirements of this GDPR regulation in Europe that's going to eventually make its way here at some point or another. Be a leader. Take on those. It's going to be costly, but take on those rules. Deploy them now. Your brand will be better for it, I think, in terms of public opinion. Anyway, that's it. I want to get back to this beer and turn the recording off so Robert stops waving at me to cut it off. Thanks, everybody. Cheers again, mate.
Cheers,
I really appreciate the conversation.
Cheers.
Join us again next week for another Marketing on Tap podcast and video.
Cheers,
Bye,
guys.
everybody.